But I all hope you had a very wonderful, great day indeed, guys. As you can see, guys, the weather today is very quietly beautiful and very quietly sunny, but there's still a bit of a breath of cold air, which is cold wind, which is still out there as well. Guys, I am so superly grateful for your support in watching and in viewing my episodes from TikTok and from shorts and from long videos as well. So superly grateful for you guys as well. Literally, truly, so superly grateful for you guys in viewing and watching my episodes from TikTok, shorts, and long videos, especially from YouTube and from TikTok as well. So superly grateful from all of you guys from both sides and from those of you who are also subscribing. Truly grateful for that as well, guys. And may God bless you and be with you and stay with you in everything else that you're doing. And may you have a blessed day and a great day and a great day indeed, guys. And be yourselves and love yourselves and take care of yourselves as well. And be happy. And may God protect you and be with you in everything else you're doing. On today's episode, we're to speak about the Vampire King, who is the founder and the leader of a vampire shadowy organization, of a dark vampire shadowy organization that has no name or anything else, but with the sole goal and purpose of making sure that the vampire race remains the sole dominant race over the sacred world and over the sacred universe, by making the vampires the sole rulers of the sacred world and of the sacred universe and of the known universe, in a process to further his ultimate goal for sole dominant over the sacred world and over the sacred universe as well. The Vampire King is gratefully very much ambitious and very much extremely powerful, ancient, and very much immortal, greater ancient vampire king that has ever ruled the vampires and led them during out his ancient times, and as well during out the ancient following centuries as well. So let's begin. During the ancient centuries within the ancient times, the Vampire King was the former ruler and leader over the vampire race after the mysterious unknown vampire founder who was quietly to rumored to be a legend and a very much of a godly figure to the vampire race, who mysteriously also vanished and disappeared after his great big battle against the sacred founders, who are the original ancestors, who are the original godlike ancestors of the supernaturals, Four Nation Hunters, aliens, and superhumans, and the rest of the sacred world's creatures and inhabitants as well, have quietly, mysteriously died and vanished out of nowhere. After the vampire original sacred founder vanished, the Vampire King over the following centuries and during the ancient times took control over the vampire race and over the vampire empire, and placed them under his sole leadership, believing that his kind and his people are also quietly destined to rule the sacred universe and the sacred world. Over time, the vampire race began to not exactly believing in the vampire's king leadership, and they began to secretly shun him, while the others mysteriously began to follow him in his quest and his goal and his true divinity as well. The Vampire King began an all-out attack and a civil war against the Four Nation Hunters and against the werewolves, witches, druids, warlocks, faithful, fairies, stone fairies, powerful, aliens, superhumans, Four Nation Hunters, Five Nation Hunters, Six Nation Hunters, all the great creatures and inhabitants that live on the sacred world, on the sacred universe. He began the sacred ancient civil war of the sacred world in order to make sure that the vampires remain the sole rulers of the sacred world and of the sacred universe. His plans, after all, gratefully failed, and they were gratefully thwarted due to the intervention of the Four Nation Hunters and due to the intervention of the Four Nation Hunters and of the Origins, who came just in the nick of time to preventing the all-out war from being actually carried out. And the civil sacred war was, after all, prevented. The Vampire King realizes that he has to take a different approach at the matter. He realizes that he had to take a different approach at a matter in order to taking a different turn, an unexpected turn, realizing that the Origins are the most powerful ancient creatures and beings and powerful peacekeepers and justice keepers of the sacred universe and of the sacred world, that he has to also adapt and evolve his powers and his abilities as well to a higher, greater standards. To do that, he went straightly to the most powerful ancient dark witches known as the Blood Sisters in order for them to level the playing field, in order for them to help him level the playing field, in order for them to actually help him level the playing field by making sure that his powers are fully adaptable and are fully greatly more powerful and are gratefully enhanced and amplified as well in the process. The Blood Sisters agreed to aid the Vampire King in his dark, forbidden quest to making sure that his powers highly adapt and became highly affordable and very much highly amplified by the most powerful substance and dark, dangerous energy forces, which there were the three energy forces of the dark that the Blood Sisters exactly gave to the Vampire King, who was quietly within the mountain powerful dark, they were quietly practicing the dark ancient ritual within the powerful mountain dark crystal temple within the dark crystal temple that was quietly within the mountains head within the hidden mountains of the sacred magical world, where the Blood Sisters were actually operating from the shadows as well. The Blood Sisters exactly presented the powerful sacred energies such as solar energy, which will provide immunity towards the sun, making him a powerful forbidden daylighter, and such as shadow energy, which will make him extremely powerful and very greatly and extremely immortal, increasing his long gravity and as well in increasing his long gravity and as well as his tactician ability and his super stretchless ability. The last energy source or pure energy source was magic energy, which will make him immune to all spells and to all dark magic attacks and to all invincible warlock attacks and dark magic and light magic attacks and darker devastation magical attacks and origin energy attacks against him, which will also make him probably immune and extremely very invincible and also extremely gratefully immortal. The Blood Sisters began the ritual and the incantation as they transferred all the three energies and powers into the Vampire King's stasis cryopod, where he was quietly exactly beginning to rest up, after resting up a few days and a few years. The Vampire King began to highly become more powerful, highly extremely immortal, very, very extremely independent upon himself, and gratefully very, very powerful. To this power, he developed that he has the greatest powerful darkest ability of teleportation and being immune to the sun and to other aspects of his hidden powers and his hidden abilities, that he's been granted the super ability of creating dark magic, the ability of hypnosis of literally controlling minds and literally erasing memories, and the ability of mind controlling, telekinesis, telepathic control, and the ability of super speed and super strength, and the ability of using dark magic and dark arts and solar energy and shadow energy magic and magical powers and abilities at will. The Vampire King exactly thanked the Blood Sisters for their great work and for their great mysterious work, as the vampire followers as well thank the Blood Sisters for their retribution and as well for their contribution into the dark ritual and for their services. The Blood Sisters told the Vampire King and the rest of the vampire followers who were gratefully following the Vampire King that they'll always be in the debt, they'll always be in the grateful debt of the vampires, and they'll always exactly support them and aid them in their respective conquests. They'll always remain associates and allies to the vampire race, and especially to their old friend known as the Vampire King, which the Vampire King began shook hands with his old associates, the Blood Sisters, as well, who are the most formidable, shadowy, dark, powerful, prominent, dormant witches, unknown and ever meant to be unknown towards the sacred world's histories. After that, the Vampire King began his final campaign by going to the other abyss of the dark dimensions and summoning an army of powerful, shadowy, monstrous vampire creatures to carry out his final phase of his plan to launching a full all-out attack on the sacred magical worlds and planets by placing them under the sole control of his people and of his kind by force and by at will, by any means. He launched a full scathing attack on the other on the other mountains, on the other sacred mountains of the sacred magic universe, where the fairies, the Phoenician hunters, the origins, and all the other creatures of the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans all stand together to fight up against the vampire king, to fight up against the vampire king's army of shadowy vampires and dark monsters, and literally attacking them. The battle waged on for centuries, and until during the ancient time, until the vampire king and his forces of evil were literally demolished and completely decimated, as his shadowy army of monsters of vampires were completely decimated, and some of them were banished and brought back and sent back to the dark dimension where they completely exactly belong. The vampire king was completely defeated, literally defeated and outmatched and outmaneuvered by the origins and the Phoenician hunters allies, as they were able to literally mysteriously defeat him. And the Phoenician hunters and the origins realized that the vampire king will pose a greater magnitude threat to the sacred world's balance and peace and everything else towards its inhabitants and the rest of his creatures and the rest of all the other beings. He must be sentenced into a cryogenetic freeze pod where he must be trapped and be remaining there for eternity. That way he won't be able to pose a threat until they can find a prominent solution to keeping his forbidden powers and his dark thirst for soul control and for soul conquest, to making sure that the vampires remain the sole dominant race over the sacred universe and over the sacred world. The other vampire followers agreed that they'll actually help the other allies of the Phoenician hunters of the origins to banish their former leader and to keep him exiled from returning, and also from creating havoc and destruction upon his wake, and by making sure that his dark forbidden power never again becomes released, since they've actually bear witness to what he can purposely exactly do with his dark new forbidden powers. As they all agreed, they trapped the vampire king in a forbidden cryogenetic freeze pod. After that, the vampires exactly found a way in order to shift off the cryogenetic freeze pod across the known universe by supplying it to one of the dangerous alien criminals until it reached Elderly Granny's asteroid essential headquarters of our bases of operation, where the vampire king was exactly housed among other powerful genetic cryofreeze stasis pods of other creatures and beings who are also trapped and imprisoned for their crimes against the sacred universe and against the sacred world. During over the following centuries and years, the vampire king remained in prison, in self-imprisonment over the cryogenetic freeze stasis pod over the centuries and over during the ancient time, while his species and his kind and his race of the vampires began exactly standing out for themselves and began fighting amongst themselves and began literally urging for the vampire king to slowly return, for him to actually return, as they realized that his predicament was actually true, and it actually did came to pass when the original Lord of Magic threatened to exterminate the vampires and to wipe out the supernaturals, aliens, superhumans, Phoenician hunters, and all other creatures that pose a threat to mankind and especially to humanity as well. The vampires exactly were divided fraction, as I exactly said previously on the other episode, that they were all a divided fraction, as the vampire elders of the Vampire Council disagreed that the vampire king must never again return, as the other followers agreed that the vampire king must return. The others exactly solely disagreed with the others that the vampire king must never return. They can still exactly fight up against the original Lord of Magic's followers and up against his forces of evil with the aiding of themselves and standing out for themselves, and also helping the Phoenician hunters. The vampire nation and races were divided into three factions. Each of the followers were still solely committed to their former leader, known as the Dark Vampire King, while the vampire elders exactly remained to themselves and obligated to the nation of the vampire, as by exactly standing by themselves and with their people in order to defend themselves from any sinister attack or threat, while the other vampires stand out with the Phoenician hunters, and with the origins as well. Over the following centuries and ages, the Vampire King still remained in prison within Elderly Granny's asteroid base until he was successfully freed on the 25 of March, where the vampires exactly arrived on Elderly Granny's asteroid base, where the Universal heroes were gratefully exactly fighting Elderly Granny. At the time, the vampires gratefully seeked a dark Warlock to aid them, to opening up a portal to the other side, to Utterly Granny's asteroid base, where they secretly liberated their leader from his cryogenetic free stasis pod and literally granted him his freedom, took the cryogenetic free stasis pod and literally took him, and they teleported away from the battle that the Universal heroes were fighting up against the greatest and most formidable enemy of all time. On the 20th of April, the Vampire King cryogenetic freeze pod was brought into the Vampire Hotel, where the rest of the vampires were gratefully exactly waiting for the former leader to awaken from his deep, permanent, powerful stasis sleep of all time, where he gratefully exactly awakened, and he was very quietly intrigued and surprised that many of thousands of his followers and the rest of his proteges, such as Vampire Boy, Jamie, and Lydia, and the rest of the other vampire proteges was able to recruit during the following centuries and ages, are still able to solely believe in him and literally still able to trust in him no matter what. The Vampire King was very quietly surprised to see himself being reawakened from his cryogenetic freeze pod, and he still remained handsome and very attractive the way he did. The vampires exactly told him that there's been many changes in the modern society of the sacred world and of the sacred universe and of humanity, and that it might take some time for the Vampire King to actually understand everything else that's completely going on. The Vampire King told the vampires that he needs to go back to his cryogenetic freeze deep sleep, but he was very quietly glad to see that his people never lost faith in him and never stopped quietly believing in his goal and his fruitful mission and his goal and everything else. He told his proteges that they will still take over where he left off, and that making sure that his goal and mission remains still the same as ever before. But for that, before he can permanently exactly return, he must continue to remain in his soul deep transition of his deep sleep within the cryogenetic freeze pod, because he was able to gain more power and more long gravity in preserving his beautiful youth and his powers and himself in the long process, and also by gaining new powers and new abilities in the long process as well. As the vampires all agreed that that's exactly what the king wanted, they'll find a very secretive base where he can exactly rest to keep his cryogenic free stasis pod very much quietly but secret, so they can exactly rest up there and remain quietly, peacefully asleep until he's ready to return again. On the 29th of May, the vampire general exactly spoke to the vampire king, who was quietly remaining in his still transition of his deep sleep, while he was quietly remaining in his deep sleep in his secretive basis of operation, which was quite an undisclosed location. The vampire general exactly told the vampire king he must exactly return to help the vampires reclaim their rightful destiny and their rightful mission for them to conquer the sacred universe and the sacred world, and his organization must keep on moving, and it must still be reformed, and it must still be reassembled out of all time. Right now, they need his greater leadership and his greater ancient experiences and his greater expertise and his talents. Deep inside the cryogenetic free stasis pod that the Vampire King was able to rest up, he still was able to listen and still hear everything what the Vampire General was actually saying to him, despite him remaining in a deep transition of his deep dormant sleep in a cryogenetic freeze stasis pod as well. On the 15th of June, on the 15th of June, the Vampire King reawakened from his cryogenetic freeze stasis pod, as he was able to tell his people that he's back. And the only first line of order of business, as the Vampire King told his people that he's actually returned after his deep transitional sleep, for his final deep transitional sleep on the Vampire Hotel, which was quietly located on planet Earth. He was able to tell his followers and his people that the first step in order line of business, that they must exactly regain control of the vampire worlds and planets and civilization. The vampires exactly reassured the Vampire King that everything else is still the same as it was, is that the difference is now that the original Lord of Magic has died and has passed away, and that there's a new Lord of Magic who's exactly rising from the shadows and has assembled an ancient group of supervillains of his own, and his ancient secret society has managed to take control and reform the new Shadow Empire. The Vampire King exactly reassured his beloved people and the rest of his followers that the organization of the Vampire Cell is hereby formed and reassembled, and that its first job and mission is for them to gather intelligence as much intelligence and as much mission. But the first order of line of business is that the Vampire King must go solely to the source of his home world and to confront the Vampire Council and telling them that their place must still remain loyal to him and only to him, not to the Phoenician hunters and not certainly to the Universal Heroes. That is what he required. The vampires agreed to aid the Vampire King straightly to the vampire worlds and planets of the sacred world and of the sacred universe to aid him to his travel to go into the known universe, to go straightly directly to the vampire worlds, where he'll confront the Vampire Council head on and for him to place in his sole control and dominion. But before he left, he told his proteges that they are the ones who will remain in charge over the vampires in this world, meaning in planet Earth, where the other vampires secretly coexist with humanity and with the aliens and with the superhumans and with the Phoenician hunters, that they must still remain control over the vampire territories and the cities that they managed to secretly control and place their control over, while the others agreed to aid the king and master to the Vampire Council as well. On the 25th of July, the Vampire King exactly returned to the vampire worlds and planets where he exactly began to reveal himself that he's back and that he's willing to take control over the vampire nation, and over the vampire race. The Vampire Council exactly told the Vampire King he has no jurisdiction and he has no rights to place his control or anything else on the vampire nation or anything else rather than that. Before that, the Vampire King demonstrated his new powers and his new dark abilities as he decimated one vampire elder and leader with his new forbidden dark powers and dark abilities in front of the other vampire councilmen and leaders, as he told them, is there anyone else who's willing to actually oppose his word or oppose anything else he has to say? The other vampire leaders and council exactly told themselves that they're hereby pledging their allegiance and their loyalty to the Vampire King, as he's the one who's directly in charge and the leader of the organization and of the Vampire Nation. The rest of his other followers also bowed down to the Vampire King, telling him that they are hereby serving their new master and leader as well. And the Vampire King was very happy as he began to take his rightful place to the throne of the vampire worlds and planets, stating to the vampire elders and leaders that the vampire race is hereby under the sole control of the Vampire King from here on out, here and now and forever. And their first task is for them to conquer many more worlds and planets and civilization. But they're going to do it in a very, very most secretive and very, very most secretive way, and not in a very dark way. On the 15th of August, the Vampire King exactly created a dark holographic hologram as he was able to secretly convene with his mysterious associates and allies on an ancient, powerful cave, which was quite an unknown, disclosed base of a location that was quietly within the forest, where they all created powerful, dark, shadowy holographic holograms on themselves in order to conceal their identities in one another, as the mysterious associates exactly told the Vampire King that it's very quietly good to have him return and back and forth, and that it's time for him to begin reassembling his organization, his shadowy organization, and his calling to fulfill his rightful destiny and mission as well. The Vampire King reassured his old associates that he's back in power and that he's back in control, and that his first line of business is to take control over the remaining worlds and planets and civilization and place them under his sole control and under his sole territory. That by doing so, the vampires will have sole control over the sacred world and over the sacred universe and over the known magical worlds and civilization. But to do that, they might need unlimited resources and more power and more influence and more connections. His mysterious associates exactly reassured the Vampire King that they have all those resources under their disposal and that they're willing to share them, and literally are willing to share them and are willing to give them away willingly, and they're willing to actually aid him and abet him on his mysterious goal and darker goal of conquest and of sole control over the sacred universe and over the sacred world. and the Vampire King was very, very, very quietly pleased and very much reassured of his associate, as they never actually turned his back on him, never again, and never did. As he reassured his associate, they will also exactly benefit from the goal. His associates already told him that they really have benefited from the goal, and they really have benefited from the goal's dream and from the long-term plans of the goal's mission and of its dream, and that everything else is going according to plan, the way it's meant to be. As the Vampire King seemed gratefully reassured of that as well. On the 15th of September, the Vampire King exactly met up with the vampire followers within the central headquarters of the vampire worlds and planets and civilization, within the chambers, as was able to tell his followers that the organization is hereby being reformed and being reassembled, and it's called the Vampire Cell, with the sole goal and with the sole mission to making sure that the vampires remain the sole dominant rulers of the sacred world and of the sacred universe, and that their job and mission must remain the same by any means necessary. The vampire followers exactly reassured the Vampire King that they have more unlimited resources, as they managed to make an ancient pact and a deal with the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders who've agreed to aid them and giving them ultimate, destructive, and more compatible technology as ever before, which in other words will actually help them reach their goal and pursue their goal and their mission further. The Vampire King exactly told his followers that they can never underestimate the Four Nation Hunters and the intergalactic coalition of the Four Nation Hunters, especially now that they have powerful allies and powerful friends who are very extremely, and very much quietly extremely retaliant, and very quietly extremely retaliant, and very quietly extremely optimistic and unwilling to give up without a fight. And according to the ancient rumors of the other ancient powerful secret societies of supervillains, that they learned the hard way that the universal heroes and the intergalactic coalition of the Four Nation Hunters can never be underestimated, and they have to be taken down the hard way, or rather the shorter way, as they've learned to do things the hard way, since they learned that the heroes are very extremely powerful and extremely reluctant, and they can never be resilient, and that they can also be too resilient and they don't actually give up with their goal. The vampire followers exactly reassured their master and leader that they are very much quietly well aware of the threat, and are very much quietly well aware that the threat possesses greater abilities and greater skill, and so do themselves and their people. As the vampire followers reassured their king that everything is going according to plan, the way it's intended to be as well. On the 25th of October, the Vampire King exactly created a powerful dark shadowy holographic hologram of himself, as was able to meet up with the other vampires on planet Earth, on a hotel on planet Earth, where he was able to exactly convene with them by concealing his identities, as he was able to reassure his followers that everything else is going according to plan, the way it's intended to be, and that the plans and the preparations have been set in order. All they have to do is that the vampires on this world and on this world within humanity, residing within humanity, must begin to take their rightful places in beginning to prepare for a conflict in order to wipe out and dispose of the world heroes and of the united heroes at will, once and for all, because they cause too much trouble and too much attention, and they cause too much trouble and too much interference to furthering their goals and their plans. As the followers all agreed, what's the sole purpose of the goal? The Vampire King began to lay it all out for them, and begins to secretly telling them exactly what the goal would be. On the 15th of November, the Vampire King exactly sat on the tower of the vampire worlds and cities, while the rain exactly rained, as was able to mysteriously remain there for days and for days, as he continued to still actually remain there for days and for days, and sat on the tower, with the newest member of the new vampire cell of the organization remained within the tower's hidden building, and able to exactly remain from the radars of the rain, still exactly watch the Vampire King still sitting and after all doing nothing, until the Vampire King dark Vampire King stood up and exactly still stared at the skies and at the rains of the vampire worlds, raining for days and for years and for days. On the actual 29th of December, the Vampire King exactly secretly reconvened with the members of his dark, shadowy vampire cell organization, on a powerful dark cave, which was quite an undisclosed location within the sacred forest of the sacred world, where they all convene in the dark holographic holograms, where they all created dark holographic holograms of themselves, as the Vampire King exactly began to tell them that it's time for them to further their plans and their goals and their mission, and also to furthering the interpretation of their goals, and also to furthering the future plans of their goals and of the organization's goals and of the Vampire Nation's goals and mission. And mission and goals must successfully bear fruit one way or another, as the other members of the Vampire Nation all agreed, and the newest members of the organization, of the shadowy organization, all agreed that it's time for them to actually furthering the goal, and also learning the hard way that the universal heroes are definitely going to pose a threat and a very, very much of a powerful, secretive, deadly force that must be reckoned with one way or another. On the 19th of January, the newest member of the Vampire King exactly told the Vampire King that the new ally has, after all, indeed, the old powerful associate has quietly returned, and that he needs to have a word with the Vampire King. As the Vampire King exactly stepped away from the towers hand of the vampire worlds and cities, the Vampire King exactly went inside the building and exactly spoke with the mysterious shadowy associate who was sitting from the shadows of the building, and exactly told the mysterious associate that everything else is going according to plan, the way it's supposed to be. He has managed to take back control of the vampire worlds and planets and cities, and of the Vampire Nation worlds, planets and cities, and that the Vampire Nation has begun its global assault and planning and conquest to conquering all worlds and civilization and everything else according to the plan, the way it's supposed to be. The new old shadowy associate of the Vampire King told him that he must never underestimate the universal hero's abilities in thwarting his operation and his plan, as those heroes have defeated the most powerful ancient being and one of the strongest of their kind, one of the strongest and formidable of their kind, known as the original Lord of Magic, who is exactly dead right now, and the other ancient secret societies of supervillains known as the Order of the Five were gratefully defeated by these universal heroes, as they learned the hard way that these heroes can never be underestimated, and do not underestimate them, as the new shadowy dark figure who sat within the shadows of the building told the Vampire King to never underestimate these heroes, especially the new Universal Man. He's too powerful, too optimistic, and too resilient. Him and his team of heroes and their allies are too powerful and are too deadly, and they pose a threat. Do not underestimate them, as the shadowy figure told the Vampire King over and over. Do not underestimate them. The Vampire King exactly reassured the shadowy figure of his old associate that he won't make that same mistake as the original Lord of Magic and as the founders actually did when they were defeated by the universal heroes, by their tactics and by their abilities, and he will never make that same mistake as well. The mysterious shadowy figure and associate decided to exactly reveal himself, as he was wearing a powerful secretive shadowy mask within his face in order to conceal his face and identity. As he is about to leave the building, the dark rain and lightning is about to exactly be coming, as the mysterious shadowy figure told his two allies that everything else that they're doing will soon come to bear fruit, and everything else will be restored in order the way it was meant to be. The mysterious shadowy figure told the Vampire King that there's a new child of prophecy who's about to emerge from the sacred world and from the sacred universe. Do not underestimate him as well. The task and the mission is about to bear fruit, and as well of its goal. After that, the lightning struck right within the center of the building, and the mysterious shadowy figure completely disappeared as well. The new member of the organization of the Vampire Dark Cell organization began to ask the Vampire King, is he quietly okay? The Vampire King exactly responded that he's quietly okay, as he was quietly irritated and quietly not liking the words as the shadowy figure began to exactly say. Regardless of what the shadowy figure said, he still exactly wasn't showing any signs of being not totally okay what he actually completely said. On the 19th of February, the Vampire King exactly convened with the members of the Vampire Cell on another different basis of operation, which was a very much of a powerful ancient dark crystal cave where they all created dark holographic shadows of themselves, where they all exactly convene to discussing the furthering up of their plans and the great anticipation of their goals and their mission. As a vampire king told the members of the organization that what's at stake can never be underestimated, and that it's time for them to begin their goals and their sole mission, and it's time for them to find out more about the white beast. The members were all quietly skeptical as they all began to ask the Vampire King what the hell is the white beast. The Vampire King began to explain to the members and to the new old members that the white beast is an ancient creature and an ancient being, more powerful, more greatly, very much greatly powerful, and greatly, very much powerful, and greatly, very much powerful, and greatly, very much indestructible force of power that possesses ancient, powerful magic and abilities. That is the ability of nullifying and also amplifying the powers of sacred creatures and other magical creatures at will, and also powerful dark creatures at will. By finding this creature and also bringing it directly to the Vampire King's base, they will be able to obtain its powers and its greater powers on themselves, in also to begin the further step of the ancient ritual that they're about to proceed with. The members all agreed that they'll do all they can to find out more about the ancient white beast as well. On the 20th of March, the Vampire King exactly summoned the members of the vampire cell on a different basis of operation. This time they all secretly convened on an ancient powerful dark cave where they all exactly concealed their identities in a dark shadowy holographic holograms of themselves. This time the Vampire King summoned a powerful monstrous statue of a monster with his own power and ability, and he presented it to the newest and oldest member of the organization and stated to the members that this is a future of their goal and the future of the organization and on the future of the vampire race, where they'll all become the sole dominant rulers of the cosmos and of the rest of the sacred world and of the rest of the sacred world and of the rest of the sacred universe, which means, in other words, they'll be way too powerful and way too destructive. As all the other members agreed, what will exactly be doing with the powerful ancient monster statue? The Vampire King described and explained the monster statue being summoned by him. He told them that he found it many centuries ago after the great great civil battle and war, after the great ancient civil war and battle that he managed to fight with the other ancient allies and creatures of the Four Nation Hunters, managed to defeat them, and that he was able to gain its life force and its powers and its abilities as well, and its forbidden techniques and secret, making him more powerful and extremely reluctantly immortal as well. As he told the members that this vampire monster statue is the future, and that it possesses tremendous amounts of power which could help them controlling and capitalizing on the sacred world and on the sacred universe and on the sacred galactic war's conflict for themselves, to becoming the sole rulers and leaders of the sacred universe once and for all, by removing the universal prince and the star prince and the red bolt and dark gray and the dark king and the members of the order of the five and the members of the order of the four and the members of the order of power, order of death, order of secrets, order of the six, order of the seven, the galactic unholy alliance, sacred five as well, by making sure that the other powerful, dangerous ancient criminals don't exactly possess this much type of power for themselves as well, which will also make the vampire race the dominant, powerful, greatest empire throughout sacred history. The members all agreed that they all here joined up to this organization, to this shadowy vampire cell organization, to further their own plans and their own agendas in order to combine their resources and their influence in order to make sure that the organization's goals and mission successfully bear fruit. And the Vampire King completely agreed that is the sole objective. That is what they all are going to achieve by annihilating all wars and by capitalizing from those wars, obtaining enough money to strip the sacred nation and the Four Nation Hunters out of business, and by competing against the universal prince and against the Stock Prince and against Red Bolt, to making sure that the businesses and the organization don't exactly rise up to power, which will drive them out of business and out of power and out of money as well. The sooner that happens, the sooner they'll become the sole rulers as well of the sacred world and of the sacred universe. And the vampire race will be the most untouchable and most impeccable, dark, formidable empire race throughout the sacred universe. And the vampire cell organization will make sure it reaches its goal and it bears fruit the faster way and the quicker way, as the Vampire King exactly told his members of the organization and of the ancient shadowy organization as well. On the actual of the 25 of on the 25 of April, the Vampire King exactly created a dark holographic figure to the Vampire Council within the Vampire World, as he couldn't exactly come there himself. He told them that the plans and preparations are coming along, and that sooner or later they'll bear fruit to witness what's yet to come. As the Vampire Elders exactly told the Vampire King that he can never underestimate the universal heroes. They are too powerful and are too dangerous and are too deadly. Their abilities are extremely reluctant and they're very, very powerful. Do not underestimate them. The Vampire King exactly reassured the council that he will not do such a thing as well. On the 20th of May, the Vampire King exactly standed on the tower's hand while the rain was completely continued to rain on the vampire worlds and planets, as he continued to remain there watching the skies and everything else, until the newest member told him that the sacred worlds, nations, and sacred world nations and planets are all coming together to begin the final 8 of the exams and of everything else. The Vampire King realizes that he cannot take the organization, the shadowy organization public yet, in order to draw more unnecessary attention. The Vampire King told the newest member that they will also deploy students of the Vampire Nation to participate in these exams and to making sure that they all exactly go well. And in also to do so, they'll gather more information on what the Universal Heroes and the Intergalactic Coalition are also planning as well. In doing so, they'll also keep the charade to making sure that the Vampire Elders and leaders are still in charge and are still in control over the Vampire worlds and planets and civilization, not ready to make sure that the organization and himself are ready to be exposed, not yet, to making sure that the organization still remains in the shadows and it still functions within the shadows of the sacred world and of the sacred universe. The newest member completely agreed that is what shall happen as well, and that is what shall exactly proceed as well. After 2 months since the organization and the Vampire King and the rest of the newest and oldest members of the organization having exactly convened and seen each other, the missions exactly still began taking place with their formidable assignments and their expertise and their talents and their connections and their influences towards the sacred world and towards the sacred universe, making sure that everything else goes according to plan. On the 20th of August, the Vampire King exactly summoned the members of the Dark Vampire Cell organization on an ancient, powerful dark crystal cave, where this time they all exactly convened again on a different basis of operation. This time still remained the same way, to concealing their identities in a shadowy, powerful, dark holographic figure of themselves, shadowy holographic figures of themselves, to concealing their identities as well. As the Vampire King exactly told the members of the organization that everything else is going in order, and that they managed to benefit greater information and everything else in one full sweep throughout the years, and that they learned that they can now are ready to frequently clash with the universal heroes. As the members exactly told the Vampire King, with such confidence is he ready to fight such a major magnitude of a threat that defeated the most powerful ancient being known as Original Lord of Magic. The Vampire King exactly told the members that each of them will be forced to be fighting the universal heroes during our plans and our conquest, and during our plans and our quest to conquering and ruling the sacred world and the sacred universe, and placing it under the sole control of the vampire race, which will soon happen one way or another. They all agreed that it's definitely time to proceed with the plan as well. On the 15th of September, the Vampire King and the new member of the Vampire Cell organization sat within the tower's set within the Towers buildings, where they all spoke with a new and old associate, and the new associate and ally exactly told them that it's time for them to proceed with a plan before this becomes too risky, and too dangerous for their plans to actually not to take place. As the Vampire King exactly began to tell the new and old associate that everything else is set in motion, all the steps and preparations are being set, everything else is ready to begin according to plan. As the new and old associate figure told the Vampire King, do not underestimate the universal heroes. Capturing the white beast will draw unnecessary and more wanted attention for them, which is not exactly what they need. And the organization has been functioning, doing well since it remained and operating within the shadows of the sacred world, making sure that the vampires exactly stick to their plan and to their sole purpose as well. The Vampire King solely agreed with his old associate that is exactly what he's willing to continue to do. But to capture the white beast and the other sacred creatures and magical creatures, they have to obtain them and they have to acquire them. One way or another, they must begin to obtain them and to also capture them in order to further their ultimate goal and plans as well. The new old shadowy figure associate began to agree with the Vampire King that it's time to take drastic actions and drastic measures before the situation becomes too dangerous and too very much quietly too powerful for them not to take any action. Otherwise, it could risk further damaging the plan in the process. As they all agreed to that as well, the Vampire King told the new old associate of his ally that he's managed to dispatch all the members of the organization to carry out their sole duties and their mission, and sooner or later they'll have possession of the white beast and they'll have it under the thumbs of their hand, and they'll soon exactly seal its forbidden dark magical powers within the monstrous vampire statue in order for them to absorb it and extract it and use it for their own gain. As they all agreed that it's time that the plan successfully bears fruit as well. Despite this, guys, the Vampire King is extremely immortal and very, very powerful figuring leader, an ancient legendary myth to the vampire race and to the rest of his people. He has thousands of vampire followers and very, very powerful shadowy figures of dark magic users and followers who follow him and who gratefully believe in his goal and his obligation of his goal and of his mission. He's very ambitious and very, very completely ambitious, very, very much quietly completely ambitious and solely completely ambitious, very much completely ambitious and solely intelligent and very ruthless, merciless, very, very cold ice as hell, and very cold as ice as hell, as initially stone cold with his mission and with his obligation. He shows no remorse to any obstacle that dare oppose him. He possesses forbidden dark powers and greater abilities. Due to his own gravity, he believes that his people and his kind are destined to remain the sole rulers over the sacred universe and over the sacred world as well. He forms powerful, formidable ancient alliances with powerful ancient dark shadowy criminals with ancient dark and powerful shadowy criminals to utilize their resources for his ultimate goals and for his ultimate plans. And he learns that they can be trusted with these goals and with these plans and with his mission, and he's willing to make sure that the Vampire Cells organization's secrets don't ever be released or exposed to anyone else, rather to the members who completely understand the organization's secrets and everything else, that they remain close by and they also stand solely close with him and the trusted inner members and the other old members and newest members of the organization know very well that the secrets of the organization can never be exposed. The Vampire King and his organization and the members of his organization frequently clash with the Universal Heroes and with the United Heroes and with the World Heroes, as the Vampire King learned the hard way that the Four Nation Hunters and the Intergalactic Coalition and of the Universal Heroes, they can never be underestimated, especially with the abilities in thwarting his operation and his long-term plans as well. He's very skilled in dark teleportation, in the power of repulsion, in the power of great magnetic repulsive force of controlling magnetic repulsive force at will, and with the power of summoning, and with the power of great great of controlling 6 ancient powerful bodies of ancient vampire creatures at will, which remain by his side at all times as well, and with the power of dark teleportation, the power of opening portals, super speed, super strength, long gravity, extremely immortal, very beautiful, very intelligent, very decisive, very optimistic, and very determined soul leader and founder of the vampire cell. And he's also very powerful enough to opening dark portals, and with the power of hypnosis and the power of seriously magmatizing other creatures and other beings at his will in order to erase their memories and everything else, and also with the power of flight, telekinesis, telepathic, mind controlling, and with the power of creating dark rituals and dark incantation, and controlling powerful, formidable vampire guardians, ancient vampire guardians and bodies at will, who gratefully act as his personal bodyguards, and who remain asleep in dark chambers, cell of stasis pod of dark stasis cell chambers pods within the vampire worlds and cities buildings, where they're completely exactly confined in order to rest up until he completely exactly awakens them. Very crafty in dark magic, in the dark arts, very solely immune to the sun, who possesses the power of immunity. He possesses the power of immunity, the power of being immune to dark spells and to dark magic and to origin attacks and to any supernatural creatures attacks at will, not immune to all other creatures attacks and abilities as well. Very highly adaptable, very highly evolvable, very highly can evolve very greatly, extremely faster, very much of a smarter strategist and a very greater tactician, also forming allies with the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders to also utilize their resources and everything else in order for them to aid the Vampire King and his shadowy dark organization, for them to rule and conquer the sacred world and the sacred universe in the process. Very powerful, dangerous, very controllable. He has conquered 10,000 worlds and civilization, many thousands of sacred cities, planets, colony cities, worlds and planets and cities, and placed them secretly under his sole control. He possesses the darkest abilities of influence, the connections straightly to the sacred criminal underworld, and he's very resourceful, very well educated, very well powerful, granted with the ability of summoning shadowy monsters of vampire monsters and creatures at will, very extremely immortal, extremely resilient, and extremely devoted to his organization and to his goals and to his sole beliefs. He is the leader of the vampire race and the vampire king and the vampire elders and kings and the vampire elders and all the other councilmen solely believe in his goal and his mission. Very committed, very ambitious, has long-term plans and goals for the vampire race, believing that they are the sole rulers of the rest of the sacred world and of the sacred universe, which creates a huge friction among the aliens, superhumans, and the other supernaturals of the light druids, light witches, warlocks, and all the others, and of the Four Nation Hunters, willing to wage war against them, having a huge army as his disposable, and a vampire monster statue that he can summon at will, which is an ancient primordial creature and a being that he can easily summon from the bottom of his own hands, and also grant him greater power and greater invincible power at will, the power of levitation, the power of telepathic community, and the power of creating dark magical orbs at will. Very intelligent, very ruthless, very quietly crafty and very quietly intelligent, and also very quietly good in maintaining his usual bases of operation as well as his central headquarters, which is the vampire worlds and planets and cities where he can easily exactly operate from. And these bases of operation and these hidden bases of operation as well as his central headquarters are used to protecting the members of the organization and himself and the rest of his followers and the rest of his devoted followers and the rest of his devoted powerful followers who believe in him, and the rest of the other newest members of the vampire cell organization and the rest of the other members, which are used to protect them all and providing security measures and clearance, such as also using the dark, powerful crystal vampire temples as well, for them to use them as a basis of operation, for them to all secretly convene to actually protecting themselves, and also providing security to protecting themselves, to all exactly secretly convene and meet and discuss their plans person to person, or rather through dark holographic holograms where they can all project their shadowy figures of themselves, which the Vampire King can also exactly do, which he usually exactly does. The vampire race has many hidden bases of operation within humanity, within planet Earth. They control schools, they control brothels, bars, hotels, and extremely many of them. And they have hidden bases of operation throughout the sacred world, throughout the sacred world's nations and worlds and planets and civilization. Due to the Vampire King's experience and his talent, he manages to utilize those bases of operation for his people and for his followers and for the members of the Vampire Cell to use them for them to meet and to convene to discuss their plans and their former goals as well. Throughout the following ancient centuries of the conflicts and wars, the Vampire King was able to recruit powerful proteges such as Vampire Boy, Jamie, and the other mysterious vampire proteges to come and exactly join up and to pick up his legacy for them to become his rightful successors of his goals and of his long-term plans and mission as well. In the process, his proteges gratefully believe in his goal and his mission and are very well devoted to him as well. Some of them are very quietly skeptical, the others of them are quietly rather ambitious, others of them are quietly ruthless, some of them are quietly very much devoted to him. But the Vampire King has managed to recruit thousands, millions of dark vampire followers who begin to believe in his goal and mission due to his ancient experience in throughout the ancient times and throughout the ancient centuries as well. Due to this, he's managed to form ancient powerful dark alliances with dark powerful shadowy dark witches known as the Blood Sisters, who aid him in his mission and his goal and who believe in his goal and his mission. And he was able to gain a powerful shadowy figuring old associate ally as well, who's also a powerful, formidable, resourceful associate who decided to aid the Vampire King in his respective mission and goal as well over the following centuries and over the following years as well. Despite this, he's a very powerful, wild believer, very patient with his goal, skilled in hand-to-hand combat, in the dark arts of dark magic and in solar energy magic and in blue magic and in light magic, combining all those all together. Very resourceful, very super strategist and a tactician, extremely immortal, very powerful, dangerous, merciless, ruthless, optimistic, kind, wild, intelligent, smart, attractive, beautiful, but very cruel in nature and very powerful. Founder and a leader of the Vampire Cell, a shadowy organization dedicated that was reassembled, that has been formed during the ancient times when he was quietly taken down by the allies of the sacred world and of the sacred universe during ancient times. Well, guys, that's it for today's episode. I'll actually see you tomorrow as well. Have a blessed day and a great day indeed, guys. Take care of yourself. May God bless you. Like and subscribe and have a wonderful day. Stay safe and stay happy. Take care and have a great day, and may you all stay blessed and also keep subscribing. Truly grateful for you guys. Enjoy yourself and enjoy your day, enjoy your week, and enjoy your day as well and your week. And may God protect you and bless you all and keep you safe. See you tomorrow. Bye. Bye. Bye.